Okay, so this is the motherboard of the computer that we're about to be building, and the motherboard is basically the center of the computer, and it's where everything is attached to, and if like pixels need to travel from one part to another of the computer, then they travel across the motherboard. So now we're going to move on to the CPU, and this is an Intel CPU chip. The CPU is like the brain of the computer, and it it's the center of intelligence. And yes. And now the video card. The video card, which is right here, it's kind of its own unit and it's optional. It's the center of graphics in the computer, and it has its own RAM memory that sometimes can be used um, to control, like if you're a hardcore gamer, you'd want a video card. Now the heatsink. The heatsink, basically what it does is just cools down the motherboard and the CPU if they're being overheated in the computer. And it is like the whirring sound that you hear if your computer's working really hard. And that is the RAM memory, which is the random access memory is what it stands for, and it's attached into the computer. And the more RAM memory you have, basically the more things that you can have open, like the faster your computer is going to run because it's not working as hard. And it really helps with your computer's speed. That is the hard drive, and it's the storage unit for like long-term memory. And right now this is a data ribbon cable that's being plugged into it, and it's attaching the hard drive to the motherboard, which it's going to be plugged into in a few seconds, hopefully. And it's basically how all the data from the motherboard and everything gets into the hard drive. There it is being plugged in. And next is the power supply. The power supply has a lot of cords, as you can see, and it attaches the motherboard also to the power supply, and it gets power to the motherboard and the CPU so that they don't run out of battery. And it plugs into the motherboard there, and it also plugs into the hard drive with another cable over here. And that's so the hard drive can get more power as well, because it needs the most power out of all of the objects in a computer. And then there is your fully built computer. Yay.